Hi, I'm Peter Alsop, and our song to you this week comes from my Asleep at the Helm album. It's called Let the Woman in You Come Through. I wrote this song in 1975. The second wave feminist revolution was in full swing at that time, and I was behind it 100%. I'd been living with my feminist girlfriend, Debbie Frank, since 1970, and she wasn't shy about pointing out lots of things that I did that needed some consciousness raising. She was a volunteer at the Feminist Women's Health Center in L.A., where she got to work with Carol Downer, who was a feminist lawyer and author who focused her career on abortion rights and women's health around the world. Carol was involved in the creation of the self-help movement and the first women's self-help clinic in L.A., which later became a model and inspiration for dozens of self-help clinics across the United States. My girlfriend Debbie helped there with providing menstrual extractions for their patients. So I learned a lot about feminism, and I would periodically get busted for doing something sexist or patriarchal. And after each long discussion about my behavior, I'd eventually see her wisdom and figure, hey, if I have to go through being embarrassed and lose face with my girlfriend like this, I might as well write a song about what happened and maybe help inform some other poor schlump so he won't make the same mistakes that I did. So let's listen to our song to chew for today from my feminist album, Asleep at the Helm. Here's Let the Woman in You Come Through.
You're holding in 'cause you're a man who never cries. I'm not as tough as you, my friend, but since you asked for my advice, let the woman in you come through. She's trying to let you know she's there. She colors everything you do, and the man in you gets scared. You like to dance, I've seen you dance when you thought no one was there. I've heard sorrow in your voice while you laugh like you don't care. It's hard to hide your gentle side, it's a lonely way to be. Take it from a friend who knows, an old friend like me. Let the woman in you come through. She's trying to let you know she's there. She colors everything you do, and the man in you gets scared. You'll fight to prove that you're a man. You'll fight to prove you're right. You work hard and you play hard, and you stay up late at night. Working hard's a way to hide from the dumb things some folks say, but holding tenderness inside is only throwing it away. Let the woman in you come through. She's trying to let you know she's there. She colors everything you do, and the man in you gets scared. So you tell me that I'm crazy, and I know you don't like kids, especially little sissies. Yeah, I know you never did, but I've seen you with the tough ones, the ones the others all condemn. And you know that they're the frightened ones, and you know 'cause you're like them. Let the woman in you come through. She's trying to let you know she's there. She colors everything you do, and the man in you gets scared. Let the woman in you come through. Be a different kind of brave. She'll show you love's the difference between a free man and a slave.
This song was originally released on Flying Fish Records out of Chicago. It was one of the biggest folk labels in the country at the time. This song was also their first single and maybe the only 45 RPM vinyl record they ever released. I played guitar and harmonica, and the wonderful Michelle Browerman played delicious piano. Michael Colina arranged and played the string parts on synth. Tim Boatman was on drums, and Andy Way played the bass. This was my second album, and I thought it would be a good idea to find a producer who could help me get it done. I decided to ask one of my friends, Holly Neer, for a recommendation. She's still one of my heroes, or is it heroines? I'm not exactly sure what's correct, but that's how I found Julie Thompson. She had produced Holly's first 2 albums. I called Julie, and she agreed to produce Asleep at the Helm with me. All the songs on that album were relevant to gender issues and struggles that us men were trying to adjust to, as huge cultural changes were going on around us. It was basically a male feminist album, came out in 1977. And yet, still today, our mainstream culture does not encourage boys or girls or men or women to explore the full range of our sexual nature. Our bodies make estrogen and androgen, both of which affect our growth and our behavior. But even more potent than what our hormones do to us is the fact that we are still trained and socialized and expected to perform as others of our sex have in the past. We're told stories about how others of our birth gender have always behaved, and we grow up believing that those stories are accurate, and they're the only ones we have to guide us as we mature, when in fact, they are only some of the many stories that might be our story. Had we the freedom to explore our feelings and express our love and attractions as we discover them, our actual life stories might have turned out much differently than the ones we followed. For years and years, those of us who've dared to suggest that we feel cramped and uncomfortable trying to fit into the limited stereotypes of acceptable gender behaviors have been chastised. We've been punished and excluded for even daring to suggest that we want to be allowed to discover who we are and who we love. We want to figure out what being a man or a woman might include for us, regardless of what has come before. And that goes for changing our behaviors and nowadays our labels and names. We want to live as we see fit and provide ourselves with our own best lives. We want our place in this world to be dynamic and work for us in the healthiest ways so we can thrive and survive as the world continues to change around us. This song is almost 50 years old, so it carries within it some of the common misconceptions that we have been slowly changing. One is that we used to think that if a man exhibited a gentle, nurturing, caring behavior, it was not his masculinity, but something else more feminine showing itself. When in fact, we now acknowledge that gentle, nurturing, caring behaviors are just as masculine as the rough and tumble slap on the back, I love a good argument, let's wrestle behaviors that have traditionally defined men for years. So I know that the title of this song could probably be changed from Let the Woman in You Come Through to Let the Gentle, Caring, Loving Man Come Through, but that doesn't quite have the same ring, does it? I'm not going to change the title, but I will mention this every time I play the song live. What's that they say? You got a lemon, make lemonade? I mostly want people to be aware of the nuances that surround us and are continually changing. Another concept that fortunately has become dated is this one. As boys, we were not given much encouragement to cry or express our painful feelings. The philosophy had always been that if a young man expresses these kinds of feelings, it shows weakness, and the male who does so will be labeled womanly or girlish. It was a rare man who would risk being overtly gentle in public because the fear was so strong, and still is in many places, that feminine labels might be applied to them, and they might be stripped of many of the privileges that men innately have. Fortunately, much of that has changed, and now many more men are willing to risk being called powerless or weak because they are much more secure in their own understanding of their masculinity, and are not afraid of losing face or respect within their community or family. Even though our male brains have a predisposition to see and define the world in black and white binary ways, these things are changing too. In the past, the main ways that we traditionally defined ourselves as men was to be sure that we did not do anything that women did. If women cook and clean and take care of the children, we knew that real men didn't do those things. Men went to work to do more important things like running a country or a big business. We made the money and paid the bills, at least some of us did. For eons in almost all cultures, we defined ourselves as, quote, not like women, unquote. Rather than exploring what men actually feel and want, we followed the pathways that had been laid out for us by our fathers and mothers. Most men grew up without safe places to express our feelings. We had to be constantly vigilant about avoiding womanly behaviors. Many of us made a practice of appearing tough or macho to ward off teasing or ridicule that would call our sexual identities into question. In fact, we'd call our sons sissies if they cried or acted too caring or gentle. Cowboy up, son. There's no crying in baseball. And we'd use the word sissy as a negative comment, comparing them to someone's sister, often when our own daughter was standing right there. That was one of the worst slights we could give them. So there have been great changes in the last 50 years. It's interesting that during the last few years dealing with the COVID epidemic threatening our lives, many of us stayed home from work to avoid contact with others. And we discovered that we had time to reflect on how nice it was to step off the I have to go to work now conveyor belt and stay home. Lots of men report that they love spending more time with their family and kids and spouse and are now finding ways to work at home so we can have more balance in our life story. It's scary to explore and learn about ourselves. As I get older, I notice the balance that takes place naturally in my life with regard to many of the binary ways I've been trained to think. Courage comes from the word cœur, which means heart in French. And if we are to discover who we truly are, we may need to muster the courage to face some of our fears and notice what's in our heart. And that will hopefully encourage us to make the changes in our lives that we most need to make. We don't have to wait until we get older to find some of that healthy balance that we seek in our lives. I'm Peter Alsop. Thanks for stopping by. I hope to see you next week with another song to chew. Bye for now.